Hello, good afternoon. Michael Wynn, Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, Division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Thanks for joining in today on the Digital Marketing Podcast and video, where we talk about digital marketing strategies and tactics to help grow your business. Today's episode is inspired by an article that is trending right now on LinkedIn, which covers the breakup between FedEx and Amazon. Trying to get caught up myself over the last couple of days, being out due to a wicked summer flu. I'm trying to catch up rapidly on what's happening just in the world and the economy and the digital landscape and all the things that make life interesting and fun. So as I read across that article, a couple of things really came to my mind, and I think are great connections. If you haven't listened to this, your first time tuning in to the show, not only do we talk about digital marketing tactics and strategies, but we also just talk about business growth and growth mindset as a whole. And so today's going to be kind of a mashup between those two. So we're going to talk about the growth ideas and maybe some of the reasons behind this breakup. And then kind of finish off with a couple of extra bonus points, if you will, of why your business should care about this and what information might you glean from this breakup. So let's dive right into it. We're going to cover 5 things that are really takeaways, and then 2 that are kind of extra bonus points. So I think you'll really appreciate that. So number 1. I think that this is an incredible example of disruption. Disruption meaning that, e-commerce businesses have relied upon the transportation industry to provide distribution and delivery for their products. And so, what some people may not be aware of is Amazon has a product called Amazon Air. I guess it's really not a product, it's a service where they literally have a fleet of air cargo planes that are basically scheduled to have 20 different gateways, operating out of 20 different gateways by 2021. This is just another example of a company who is really forward thinking about how are they going to provide the best level of service to their customers and not be bound by the status quo. So number 1 is be aware of disruption in your industry and stay in tune with that, and also just be aware of disruption as a whole. Our society, because of the internet, is under such a incredible atmosphere of disruption across industries. It doesn't matter if it's healthcare or education, transportation, banking, financing, real estate. I mean, disruption is epidemic everywhere, and consumers are driving it 100%. We are demanding what we want, how we want, when we want, and companies are really having to retool and in some cases completely reinvent themselves in order to remain relevant. All right, so number 2, the company closest to the consumer profits most. So obviously this decision by, it's interesting. I wonder, it was really FedEx that broke up, but they broke up because I think they felt like Amazon was cheating on them, because they knew that, they had these cargo, air buses that they have purchased. They also knew about the 20,000 diesel Mercedes vans that they had purchased. So it was very clear, that they had a little side thing happening while they had this relationship. And so um, it's very clear that they're aware of that. But again, when we go back to what ultimately Amazon is doing by removing that expensive delivery service out of the equation, it's really eliminating sort of that middleman, which, anytime you have that type of chain or link in the chain, you've got that sort of middleman service, you're going to have higher overheads, which of course result in lower margins or lower profits. So being able to eliminate that really provides an opportunity for increased margin. So as a business owner, that's something I want to keep an eye on and thinking about in my own business. Number 3 is control over consumer experience. So I think this is another case of, I remember my days working in the automotive industry, and I spent some time in the front end, in the sales department, and spent some time in the back end in the service department. And I was always, worried about, when I was a service advisor and I was talking with clients, I had to rely on the technicians to get the job done right, so that at the end of the day, I could hand the keys, to the client and deliver to them what they were looking for, was their car completed the right the first time. And if the technician did something wrong, then that actually impacted the client's perception of me and the service, and I was that face of the franchise, if you will. So it's the same thing. If the FedEx guy drops off the wrong package, ultimately what do? We blame Amazon. You got it wrong. The delivery guy delivered the wrong thing, but we look negatively on the brand that we purchased it from. And yeah, there's some responsibility that the FedEx driver has, but ultimately, when you were relying upon third-party providers to execute any part of the consumer touch points, you're creating a liability. So the fact that Amazon is looking into Amazon Air and Amazon Flex, they're ultimately wanting to get as close to the consumer and have that entire path from click on website to ring on doorbell. They have the entire pathway. So I think that's important. Number 4, the traditional models of distribution must be challenged. I mean, if your industry, it is so, look at newspapers today, look at television stations today, relying on the last 4 decades of this is how things have always been. Nothing can bring this down. We've been here for 5, 6, 8 decades. Nothing is going to threaten the way things are, our traditions. And we're seeing that in industry after industry where those traditional models of distribution are absolutely being turned upside down. So I think that for companies who are holding on to, this is the way things have always been, that's the quickest path to bankruptcy, really. It is that critical in today's atmosphere of disruption. Number 5, the race to the last mile to finish first. I think that, obviously Amazon is obsessed with wanting to make sure that from, again, the click online or on your phone to the click of the doorbell, that last mile is critical, and they're not afraid to really try anything. I did mention Amazon Flex. Many people are not aware that Amazon Flex offers almost like an Uber Delivers or Uber Eats, where in some markets you actually have people deployed in the gig economy, which I've talked about before, the gig economy where people use their assets, their vehicles to earn $18 to $25 per hour making deliveries for Amazon. Now, this is a trick here because, Amazon lacks control when, again, you put it in the hands of an individual. But yet what they're doing is they are creating a solution, because part of the problem with delivery and distribution right now is all of the carriers are worried about how can we maximize, bulk drop and create less stops, especially like in residential delivery scenarios. And so the gig economy with individuals driving provides a great solution to that. So, in addition to that, they've got, drone deliveries that they're looking into, automated driving vehicles, just so many different methods of, alternative to what has been the status quo when it comes to distribution. So again, race to the last mile, companies who are in that race will finish first. So those are really the 5 big takeaways, I think, when we're looking at the FedEx and the Amazon breakup. So here's the 2 sort of bonus points to get to 7. Number 1 is, if your business isn't practicing a regular exercise of conducting a SWOT analysis, you could find yourself in a breakup with one of your most trusted vendors, because they could be replacing you with someone else. They could be taking it in-house. And so you really need to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. That brings me back to a series that we did earlier this year based on the book Traction by Gino Wickman, a bestseller. Great series. It was a partnership, a video podcast series I did with Katie Lilly, who's the owner-operator of Lilyfield Accounting Solutions. She does incredible work. And so we did a book series review. I think it's about a 12 episodes. But if you want to learn more about that, you can visit rboa.com/traction. Again, that's rboa.com/traction. Because in that, we talk about what's called the VTO, which is the Vision Traction Organizer. And it's really a great way for you to look at your company's 1-year, 3-year, and 10-year growth plan. And as part of that, you're going to go through a SWOT analysis. So I think, again, if we're looking through the lens of what is the expectation of the consumer, what is the expectation of your industry, and where are the disruptors, all of that's going to come as you go through that process. So check that out. I think you're going to kind of find that helpful for your company to go, okay, I don't want to find myself in a situation where I'm in a breakup with one of my trusted vendors. The second bullet point, I think, is really leveraging data and empathy. And what I mean by that is right now, because of the internet and because of the insight that you can learn based on the information that's available to you, but then take that data and interpret it with empathy. And when you do that, it really allows you to honestly and authentically be able to put yourself in your customer's shoes, literally get in the moment that they're in when it comes to how they think and feel about your industry. We talked at length on this episode series about how we deploy digital at scale and how we leverage 20, 30, 40, 50 pieces of creative in our ad campaign. And what that does is it really creates an incredible amount of data that then is able for us to interpret. But a lot of companies do this, but what they don't do, or sometimes the trap that we fall into, is we're only looking at what was the CPM or cost per thousand or cost per click. We're only looking at the quantitative data. We're really not looking at the qualitative data. And so First of all, so when you look at that and you really look at, okay, here's what the data is saying. Now, inside of the data, who are those people? What are those people actually going through on a daily basis? And how does my product or service actually make their life better, or make their life easier, or provide them greater value when it comes to achieving their goals and ambitions in life? You've got to really put yourself in their shoes, put yourself in that moment, so that you can best position your company to win. So I think, again, that second bullet point, or the extra, kind of credit, if you will, point number 7 today, is making sure that you are leveraging data and interpreting that data with empathy. So those are my 7 takeaways from today's news with FedEx and Amazon breaking up. I hope you found it insightful. It definitely did for me today, which is why I wanted to do a little piece on it. Again, thanks so much for joining in today. My name is Michael Wynn. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Digital Ops, the division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Thanks for joining in. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a great week.